Hello, my quilting friends. I see Bettina is here. I see Mary is here. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Tammy, and I am your die cutting coach. And in today's live video, I'll be talking about how to use the AccuQuilt cutting system to fussy cut your fabrics. Where are you guys joining from? Let's see. Okay, so the first thing I want to go over is thanking the viewer Jay Pauley for inspiring this live. In my last video or my last live, Jay Pauley commented that she would like to see directional fabrics or directional shapes being cut using the AccuQuilt cutting system. So I said, that sounds like an excellent video because I've struggled too with fussy cutting fabrics using the system. So that's what we're going to go over in today's live video. All right, let's see. So Bettina suggested that we start a Facebook group to show our pictures using the AccuQuilt cutting system. And I have a better idea than a Facebook group. In my opinion, Facebook can be a little toxic at times. So I'm in the works of creating us a private, unique place that is positive and uplifting, that we can safely share our comments and become better friends. So stay tuned for the announcement on that. Bettina says she is tuning in from Tennessee. Yay. What's the weather like out there? I am in the San Fernando Valley in Southern California, and it's probably about 95 degrees out, nice and hot, and I'm done with the heat already. I'm ready for autumn. Mary says that she is chiming in from Durham, North Carolina. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about fussy cutting. So fussy cutting is a process where you have motif fabric and you want to select a part of that motif to highlight or to showcase in your quilt block, which will then be in your quilt. So typically when they're called surface pattern designers, when they make their fabrics, it's repeats of a print throughout the yardage. And so if you want to go ahead and select like a little piece of that, you need to what we call fussy cut it. And fussy cutting is basically positioning your rotary cutter or your die just so on the fabric that you get the exact motif that you want cut out. So I'm going to demonstrate to you how I perform the fussy cutting process. So Bettina says where she is sunny and cloudy and about 80. Hey, Sheila. Sheila is chiming in from hot Temecula. I know it's hot out there, girl. And Marge is here. Marge says, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me. So let's go ahead and get started. So the traditional way of fussy cutting is to use a rotary cutter and perhaps acrylic rulers, or just to simply take your scissors and just cut out like we would cut out like a preschooler or a kindergarten or anybody would cut out images from a piece of paper. But since we all have AccuQuilt cutting machines and dies, I found a better way to fussy cut that is more precise and, in my opinion, less stressful. I will say out the gate that fussy cutting has a higher potential of wasting your fabric. But that's also true with rotary cutting. So let me get going here. So here are some things. I have some notes, by the way, so that I can be studious and make sure I cover all of the points. So I am going to show you some fabric that I have that has different motif prints, and I'll explain to you why I selected them and how we're going to use them. So the first thing you need to consider when you are planning to fussy cut with your AccuQuilt is you want to assess the size of the motif. In other words, if you have a smaller motif, let's say, well, let me show you. Say, for instance, we're using, this fabric here. And you see how this clamshell image is smaller. So if you wanted to just say cut out a 1-inch circle, you would just be cutting here. Versus if you're using a larger scale print, such as this one that has the butterflies. And let's say I wanted to, my quilt project has a dominant blue thing to it. And this fabric, it has blue butterflies, and it also has like this cream color butterfly. And let's just say that I want to highlight or include only the blue butterflies in my quilt block. Having said that, what I would do is I would just fussy cut this one, and I would fussy cut this butterfly. And then that way I will only have basically blue butterflies instead of the entire motif, which is this print right here, Another thing to consider is you want to Another point to consider is you want to make sure that the dye that you're using will encompass or cover the selection of the fabric that you want to include in your quilt block. And I'll demonstrate that as I start cutting. Another factor to consider is how will that block be arranged in your finished project? In other words, are you fussy cutting the motif because it is like one block in the center and it's an accent block? Or is the motif that you're cutting out a repeat of the motif, or a repeat that will go in all of the blocks in the quilt? So when you consider all those variables, the size of the motif, whether it's large or small, the quilt block that you're using, and the area that you want to cover, that's how you'll decide which dye to use. I'm going to show you that not all dyes that AccuQuilt has is, in my opinion, suitable for fussy cutting. I have multiple sizes of cubes, and along with those cubes, I have the companion sets, the angles, and the corners. And so I'll be using those in today's live to show you how to fussy cut those specific dies that are just not basic squares and half square triangles. So in order to fussy cut, you need a template. So I was just sort of moving around my house, and I said, well, what can I use for a template? So I've selected a couple of materials, and I'll show those to you now. All right, let me move the fabric out of the way. So the first material you can use, and we're going to do this live so that you can see it, is you can use parchment paper. Parchment paper is a wonderful tool to have in your quilting studio if you don't use it or have it. You can also use, I also do machine embroidery. So I have selected stabilizer. It's the sticky stabilizer. It's a sticky on one side. And the goal of it is to, when you're embroidering, you can take off, and I'll show you how to do it. You'll take off the sticky area and place it on your, well, for this process, I'm sorry, you would pre-cut the stabilizer and take off that sticky part and apply it to your motif so that you get an accurately centered cut. The third material that I have, is more embroidery stabilizer. And this is just cutaway stabilizer that you can use for the same purpose. And I'll demonstrate how to use that. And last but not least, a lot of people use a material such as this. And this is just clear binding covers. You can use any thin plastic that you have. And this is what that looks like. So you guys have seen this before. So let's get started with making the template for the fussy cutting process. So today I'll be using my Go Big, as my girl Pam Heller says, because I can. And also it's much easier to demonstrate the use of the Go Big with this camera setup because the Go Me is cranky and it shakes the table and whatnot. So let's start with making the template for, I have this template, which is called the triangle in the square. So let's start with making the template using the cutaway embroidery stabilizer. So what you would do is just like cutting fabric, it is no different. You take your die, you take the material, you place the material on top, you grab your mat because without a mat, nothing happens. And then you just push it through. Did you guys buy a die catcher yet? I haven't bought mine. I don't know if I am, honestly. I'll see what happens once you guys have it and use it and see if you think it is worthwhile. But for now, I have not ordered it. So this is what it looks like. So this is just scrap right here. And I'm literally going to throw that over there in my trash. And so what you have is you have this triangle template. And so with this triangle template, what you would do is you would take, let's see, we're going to use this fabric with the butterfly. So you would take your fabric and let's say I wanted to cut out this beige color butterfly and I wanted to encompass some of the flowers with the butterfly. So I would take this and I would shimmy it around and sort of go here like that. And then you kind of would, we're actually going to cut this. What you would do is like, I'm going to label to my belly. And then I am going with the grain of the fabric. However, when you're fussy cutting, you are turning and manipulating the fabric. So it may be off grain when you cut it because you are shimmying the fabric around. So the way that I offset any concerns I have about bias stretch as I'm cutting is I pre-starch all of my fabric. I dry it and I press it before I cut anything using my AccuQuilt cutters. And that way I can minimize any bias issues as I'm cutting. So I want to, let's say, one moment, please. So I want to cut out this area here that is this butterfly, and I want to encompass some of the flowers. So here's what I do. I take my template, and because this is cutaway stabilizer, you can stick a pin through it. So let's see, I want this area here. So I'm just going to play, and this is what I meant by determining if you have a smaller or a larger motif, because this butterfly and using this shape will fit, as you see, snugly into this triangle. Now, what you notice here is this is not exactly on the right area of the fabric. So if I were to cut it here, my shape would be inaccurate. So a couple of things I can do. I can shimmy it down so that I know that I am getting all of the shape when I cut it, or I can go around and select a different butterfly, and I can, let's say, come in here and select this butterfly, and then I will for sure make sure I have enough fabric to cut out this butterfly. But I am going to go a little rogue and go a little risky because I really don't want to waste all this fabric. And I am going to shimmy back up here. And I know that if I place this template right about there, and then I just take a pin and I pin the center. And the reason I am not putting this through the cutter, don't worry. The reason why I do that is because now I want to guesstimate or guess as much as I can, placing the template here and make sure that, like, this corner of the triangle, I just peek under and make sure it's in the general area of this corner. like that. And then on this side, again, the triangle corner right here, I'm peeking over to make sure that it's in the general area. And once I determine that all of the fabric is in the general area of the shape, I remove the pin, I put the mat on top, and I try not to shimmy it too much. And then the beauty of having a go big is that I don't have to pre-cut all of this fabric. It's just going to go through the cutter, and then I can continue my fussy cutting process. So in my opinion, it wastes less fabric versus if I were using my Go Me, all this extra fabric. I mean, I guess I could fan fold it on top and put it through the cutter, but then I run the risk of having an inaccurate cut based on my motif because this fabric is for sure will surely shimmy as it's going through the cutter. So plug for the Go Big Electric. So with this one, I can just do that and then send it through the cutter. So Bettina says that she has not purchased the die catcher right now due to expense. I hear you. I don't know if I will buy it or not because I don't want to move this setup, but this die that I just put through the cutter is not falling onto the table. Like it's kind of stuck there. So that's why I'm not so convinced that I will buy it. So this is what it looks like. As you can see, I literally just cut it, and I am going to take my scissors and cut off this extra fabric and throw it on the floor because I have more fabric to use. And what we have here is we have our original template. It got cut off a little bit, but that's okay. And look, what we have is a wonderfully fussy cut beige butterfly for our quilt block. So I'm going to keep this one because you'll see as we go along how having this motif in the center will play a role when we piece on the sides to the triangle that will complete the unit for the block. So that is material number one, which is parchment paper. Material number two was the stabilizer. So this stabilizer is, again, for embroidery. And I'm going to do the same process. I am just going to put that paper there and put the mat on top and shimmy it through. And let's see. Oh, Bettina says, don't put the fabric on top of the die. Oh, yes, I know what you mean. I was thinking, what does she mean by that? Yes, you're right. As I think, Bettina, what you mean is as you are shimmying it through the cutter, you don't want to do this. I think that's what you mean, Bettina, and that is correct. That's why when I have a project like this, I just go ahead and use my Go Big so that I can place the fabric so that it doesn't go on top as such. It's just going on the side. Thank you, Bettina. So we've run this sticky stabilizer through the cutter, and yes, that's right. Thanks. Okay. So this is the leftover. This is what it looks like. So I'm very conservative with my stabilizer. I will probably use this again for a different shape die, but this is what's left over. So I'm just going to put that aside. And then we have our actual template, which looks like the same triangle. And on the back, we have the removable paper. So what happens is with this one, the reason why I like this one is the first process, when I used the cutaway stabilizer, when I used that, remember how I had to put the pin in so that the stabilizer wouldn't shimmy as I was making sure it was placed properly? With this sticky stabilizer, you don't have to use a pin, and I'll show you. So let's go ahead and select another area. So I'm going with the tan color butterfly theme. So here's my fabric, and let's see. I'm just going to go ahead and grab this one right here. So what you would do is peel off the paper, such, and sometimes it doesn't work as well. I have a little sticky or a little pick. So when I become impatient or I can't pull off the paper, I have this pick that I purchased with my Scan and Cut. And all you do is basically like just lift up the sticky part from the paper. So once you remove the paper, you have this sticky stabilizer. So similar process, you would just go through and shimmy it and place the stabilizer on the part of the motif that you want to cut. Again, I am considering that edge here. And so I think this works for me. So watch this magic. All you have to do is smooth it, just like that. And of course, this little corner right here that I used to remove the backing is not perfect, but it's pretty much in the ballpark of what I want to cut. So no pins required. This one I like as far as the sticky stabilizer because it's safer. I have never, ever, ever ran a pin through this cutter, and nor do I want to try it. My guess is that if I had a pin and if it were going through, I think the cutter will sense that the layer is uncentered or some sort of sensor will stop it and it will back it out. But I don't want to run that risk because I have this stabilizer. So what happens next is, again, it's stuck on. I didn't have to use my pen. I'll use a similar process where I place the edge of this fabric at the top of the triangle, and that's there. I lift up the fabric, I look under, and this is off kilter because my finger is here and this part of the triangle is here. So I'm just going to kind of shimmy it a little bit there and then here. So this part matches up. I look over here and this is the end of the stabilizer, but this is the end of the die. And I'm just going to shimmy it just a smidge, and then voila. Then I will place the mat. And now, honestly, I know that we're supposed to place the die oh, Bettina says, don't you put the Bettina says, don't you put the sticky piece on the back of the fabric? You can do that, but if you do that, you can do that. You could do that. I was just thinking the reason why I didn't do it is because it would be harder for me to visualize the motif. But no, this is white and it's a dense color. So yeah, you could do that. Yeah, you can put it on the back. I just put it on the front. Now, one of the concerns with putting it on the front is that when you remove the stabilizer, there is some adhesive left. There's adhesive left. So that could be a concern. But in my experience, it's not that big of a deal. So I don't do it, but absolutely, you can put it on the back. So I'll line it up again. So we'll just put it here and here. So that's that corner, and then here. And I was starting to say that I know that we're supposed to put the sandwich through the cutter with, we're supposed to put the sandwich through the cutter with the label facing our belly. But honestly, I don't always remember to do that. And I'm honestly not that concerned about it because I starch my fabrics. So you'll see me in my lives and anything I do, you'll see me just like throwing the die through, especially when I'm using my Go Big and my studio die. You'll just see me throw the sandwich through roll the sandwich through the cutter, and I'm not really paying attention to the direction of the die. That's my choice. That is not how AccuQuilt teaches nor recommends. that's just the practice that works for me. And I haven't had any problems with that process. So here we go. So having said all that, you see all this fabric here, and my goal actually when I'm doing this is I'm trying to minimize the fabric drag as it's going through the cutter, because in my experience, what does happen is if I have too much fabric drag, it does shimmy a little. So I'm more concerned about the shimmying versus the bias stretch because it's cutting against the grain. So let me show you. So this technically label is to my belly right here. So technically the correct way to go through the cutter, I just shimmied it. Let's see. Oh, stayed in place. So technically the correct way, label to your belly, and I could just roll this fabric and put it through, but that's a little risky for me. So I prefer to do this. I prefer to rotate this sandwich. And because I have more fabric on this side, what I'm able to do is just fold it in and do that. And actually, I don't even have to touch that part. So as you see here, it starts going through. And you see this fabric here. All I did was do a little rollover versus having it shimmy because it is on the grain of fabric. So again, it's cut. It didn't fall. I just pull it out. And I don't always remember to like rub to remove the static. Sometimes I just rip it off. But because I'm trying to be a good girl today, I'm going to rub the mat and remove the static. So you do that, you remove it. And then here's leftover fabric. So you can see that, and this is a fat quarter, by the way. It's a brand new, I don't know if it's exactly a fat quarter because I bought it during Prime Day from Amazon. So it may be like 18 by 21, but it's close enough to a fat quarter to call it a fat quarter. So I've only used this section of the fabric thus far and this section. So I still have a lot to go. And as far as wastage goes, if I wanted this blue butterfly, I probably would use a different dye, because it would be it would be upside down. So I still can use this fabric. So it's not wasted. It's just cut in a limiting way that limits the dyes I can use. So this is what it looks like. And all you do is peel off the stabilizer like that. Now, did you notice how when I was pulling off, it stretched? That is a concern. And so that's one of the cons of using this sticky stabilizer, is that when you remove it off your fabric, there is that stretch. But again, I like to densely starch my fabric, so I haven't had that much problem with it, but that's a concern. If you were to place it on the back, as Bettina suggested, it would be the same thing. It would just be on the back like that. And then you would go in and just peel it off. And I guess you would have less stretch. I don't know. I haven't tested it, but here we are. That's what that one looks like. So far we've covered cutaway stabilizer. We've covered sticky stabilizer. Now let's keep going and use the parchment paper. Okay. Hey, Taisha Banks. I purchased the AccuQuilt Go and looking for videos to learn how to use it and stumbled upon your videos. Hey, girl. You're new to quilting. Oh, I'm so happy that you stumbled upon my videos. You know, a lot of people, YouTubers, talk about the algorithm and how the algorithm doesn't do whatever. I think the algorithm is working in my favor because it served you up to me. So welcome. I hope that you subscribed. Let's see. She also says, thanks to Bettina for welcoming everyone in. She says that she has sewed for over 50 years, but never quilted. Okay. Now that you're retired, you want to learn how to quilt. You are in the right place. I am doing my best to create an environment that is encouraging, welcoming to quilters of all levels, whether you are a beginner, whether you are thinking about it and you haven't even started yet, or you are advanced. This is the place for you, for us as quilty friends. Okay, Susan. Hey, Susan. Have you tried the One Block Wonder with the AccuQuilt die? I don't know what the One Block Wonder is. So maybe leave me some details because I'm not familiar with what that is. Let's see. Let's see. No, I purchased your AccuQuilt in 2019, but have been knitting and embroidery, so now it's time to quilt. And yes, you subscribe. Thank you. So, how many of you are what do they call it? Multi-crafters. So, in other words, you quilt, you embroider, you knit, and do you garden as well? And do you watch true crime? Because I watch true crime. I have a rose garden out front. I haven't started knitting, but I am an avid machine embroiderer, so much so that I have a 300-pound commercial grade embroidery machine over there called the Alchemist. All right. March says she loves our new group. I love it too. Again, stay tuned. I am working on creating us a very special place to join. It will be free. It will be off Facebook. It will be off YouTube, but we can go in there. We can have a safe place to share because I want to see all your pictures. I want to see what you guys are working on. So stay tuned. I'm working hard on that. It just requires some time and some logistics. Let's see. Hey, Jen. Jenny says that she does cross stitch, embroidery, and quilting. Are you a Lori Holt fan? I know Lori Holt is big on cross stitching. I haven't ventured into that yet because I'm a hospice nurse practitioner, so I have 2 jobs that get me well into the 40 hours per week. And so when I have more time, I will pick up more crafts, but so far I'm just embroidering and quilting. Let's see. So Bettina says, or I'm sorry, Taisha Banks says, I don't know what the One Block Wonder is. She just finished a jelly roll quilt for your granddaughter's birthday. Okay, I'll do some homework on it. And then after the live, I'll do some homework. And then if it's something that I think will be helpful for all of us, I'll go ahead and either do a video or do a live. Let's see. Bettina says, me too. I quilt, self-taught crocheter and cross stitch. Wow. Okay. Bettina says, I love Lori Holt. Oh my stars. Her aesthetic is just mwah. I just love it. I want to buy every collection that she comes out with, but I just don't have enough ideas nor time to quilt with it. But I love Lori Holt. Hey, love bugs, welcome. I'm glad you can make it live. Machine embroidery, Kimber Bell mostly, and quilting comes first. You know, when I started this channel, that's why I named it Tammy's Stitches, a little secret, because I wasn't sure if I was going to focus on quilting or machine embroidery, because literally it goes between like 49%, 51%, 50-50. Like I'm literally split in half. So that's why the channel is called Tammy's Stitches, because I figure with a name like that, whether I go into embroidery or quilting, it's still applicable. Let's see. Taisha says, I cross stitch too and purchase Lori Holt's seed packages. Oh, maybe we should do some cross stitching later on as we grow, because that's a whole nother skill set. I don't even know how to do that. Let's see. Jenny says she loves Lori Holt too. Love Pug says that she loves Lori Holt. Okay, so it sounds like I am going to have to purchase some Lori Holt patterns and fabric and convert her pattern into AccuQuilt language. Does that sound sexy? I think it does. Let me know what you think. Let's see. Fat Quarter Shop does matching quilt and cross stitch patterns and sew-alongs. Yes, I am in love with Kimberly Jolly over at Fat Quarter Shop. I think her and Lori Holt are like besties, like BFFs, because they're always, not always, but they're frequently together. And Kimberly is always mentioning Lori. So birds of a feather flock together. I love them both. Let's see. Taisha says that she absolutely loves machine embroidery. Girl, you have 5 embroidery machines. You have me beat. I only have 2. I have a Brother Stellaire and I have a commercial Barrett machine, but 5, oh my stars. And let's see. Love Pug says that she just finished a Lori Holt flea market quilt that she started in 2 years. Was it that complicated, or you just kind of were not exclusively doing that. Either way, thank you so much for chiming in. Now let's keep moving with the live. So I'm going to go ahead and do the parchment paper technique. So I have just regular old parchment paper. I didn't get it out of my pantry because I don't bake, but I did get it out of my stash because I purchased this earlier on for embroidery purposes and for quilting purposes. So I am just going to hopefully not cut myself on camera because that would be painful and embarrassing. And since this is a brand new roll, I'm just going to undo it. Okay. So what is, oh, it's spilling out here. Okay, let me put it back in the container. It's spilling out. Okay. So you would just tear it off the roll here, like that. Now, an issue I see out the gate with this parchment paper is that it comes off the roll and it's curling, but let's see how that works out for us. Let's see. March says that she loves to quilt and you have a long armor? Ooh, I'm sorry, you have a long arm machine. That is my next purchase. I hope I have all my vintage machines, but I started embroidering or doing end-to-end embroidery to quilt my quilt projects on my commercial embroidery machine. And so I've been doing that thus far because I just don't want to go down that slippery slope of a long arm machine, but I will one day. I just know it. And let's see. Taisha says that she bought Lori Holt's Scrappiness is Happiness book. Okay, to use up your scraps. Okay, so it sounds like we need to kind of get into the Lori Holt products and showcase some of those on the channel. Love Pug says you had to machine applique all the flowers. Oh, okay. So that's what took so long, is the machine applique of the flowers and the leaves. I'm sure it's beautiful. Bettina says, Bettina, you have a Grace Cutie machine? Oh, I wish we were all close by so we could like just go to each other's houses and play with all our machines. But I am going to create that space so we can show pictures because I've heard of that Grace Cutie and I've considered it. So wonderful. Let's see. So here we have that parchment paper. Again, same thing. I'm just going to go quickly through this because it's the same process. You put this here, you run this through. Now, what I don't know, I just thought of it as I'm running through, is that I wonder when you use different materials in your AccuQuilt, with your AccuQuilt die, does it dull the blades? And immediately as those words came out of my mouth, I think the answer is no. These are some industrial strength blades, and I'm sure they last like hundreds of thousands of cuts. But what will wear out fast are your mats. And we already know that those are the sort of disposable or consumable part of the AccuQuilt system. So here we go. This is the paper that's left over, and this could be recycled. But here's our template. And as you can see, it is curling, but let's cut out another butterfly. Okay. I'm just throwing things on the floor because I have a limited space and it's easier for me to throw it and pick it up. So don't judge me. All right, don't turn into the quilting police on me. Let's see. Marge says that she too is a Lori Holt fan. Wonderful. So we are going with that theme of beige butterflies. So I'm going to select another one here. And this one is a pinner. So I'll go ahead and pin that. And it's a similar process that I won't repeat for the umpteenth time because we already know how to do that. But that's what this template looks like. Last but not least, let's do the clear binder cover. So that's what this looks like. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that one out. So this one's pretty simple. Put that through and then just run it through. let's see. So take this off. The beauty of using this clear binder cover is essentially you've just made well, it's not acrylic, it's a plastic, but look how sturdy this one is. This one's very sturdy, and you can use it over and over and over and over again. So let's get another butterfly. Where now? See, this is the problem with throwing the fabric all around. Here we go. All right. So here is that clear binder cover. Let's select another. Butterfly. Now with this one, because it is sturdier, I don't feel the need to pin it because it's sturdy and I feel like I can just shimmy it around without inserting a pin. So that's exactly what I am going to do. So I just kind of eyeball it there, and I want this section. Now the beauty, another beauty or another perk of using this clear cover is that another perk is that you can see where your motif is just to further confirm you're in the right spot. So that's a triangle there, here, here, and I won't be too fussy with the fussy cutting, pun intended. And let's cut this out. All right, so Taisha says, what size triangle are you cutting? I am using my 9-inch cube, and this one is the, let me show you this first so I can move it out of the way. So the template got shaved off a little bit, but essentially there is our motif. So let me show you which triangle I'm using. This one is called the triangle in the squares, the centerpiece. And this die is from my Go Cube, 9-inch, and it is from the Angles companion piece that you have, or companion set you have to purchase additionally to the basic cube. So this Angles comes with 4 dies, and those dies are the die number 13, which is the triangle in the square, and then die number 14, which is the triangle in the square, the sides, which we're going to use, and then it comes with the kite shape. That's the kite centerpiece, and you would use the triangles in the square as the sides. And it also comes with die number 16, which is that trapezoid. Okay, that away. Let's see. Yes, Suzanne, I just did the freezer paper method like prior to doing the clear binder cover, and it's the same process. The only thing was that when I did the freezer paper, it curls. It curls. So parchment paper, and when you cut it, it curls up. So when you use this method, you just have to make sure that you are pinning the parchment paper onto your fabric and then remove the pin prior to putting your sandwich through the cutter. Yes, template, okay. All right. So those are the, let's see, we did 2 different stabilizers. We did cutaway stabilizer, we did the sticky stabilizer, we did the parchment paper, and we also did the clear binder cover. So those are 4 techniques you can use to make your templates to do your fussy cutting process. Oh, sorry, freezer paper and parchment paper are different. Suzanne says freezer paper and parchment paper are different. So then no, I did not do freezer paper. I only used parchment paper. Okay. Next, what I want to do is show you how to assemble or piece together the triangles in the square and the kite shape from the Angles companion set. What I learned the hard way is that when you place your fabric on the die, you have to be very specific with having your right sides up and right side down. So we've completed the section of the live where I went over how to fussy cut. Now I'm going to show you how to place the fabric on the die so that when you're cutting a directional shape, like the triangles in the square and the kite, when you cut those sides, they have to go in a certain way. Otherwise, it's all a hot mess. So let's move into that segment now. So we cut out that base triangle in the square, and we have these pieces with the butterfly as our motif. And actually what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and just stick with this one because it's the same process. It's just a different shape. And that different shape is the kite shape. So when I go into placing your fabric right side up and right side down, that principle applies to both of these shapes. So this is shape number 14, and it is from the companion Angles set. And this is what it looks like. So when you look at this die, it looks pretty innocent until you cut the fabric and then realize, oh my stars, when I piece it together, it's wonky. So I have created a template that I use. My handwriting is my handwriting. And so let me show you up close what that looks like. So this one here is the kite shape, and it has those two triangle sides. So what I've done here is I have made myself a little note that when I sew this side on, or when I piece it together, that this particular triangle needs to have the piece of fabric that has been cut placed down, and that is right side down. And then on this side, it needs to have the fabric that was cut right side up. And so with the triangle and the square, same thing. When I piece this part of the triangle or this side, it needs to be the fabric that was cut up. And this side is a fabric that's cut down. So let me show you how that fabric gets cut. Here's the die. And here is some pre-cut strips of fabric. I'm trying to use up my grunge. I purchased way too much of it. So I'm using the grunge in the tutorials so that I can use it up. So I pre-cut strips of fabric and I starched it and it's ironed. And so this is what I mean by right sides up and right side down. So here is the right side of the fabric and the wrong side of the fabric. So with this one, typically what we would do, right, is, and you could fan fold. You would just have to remember which way. You could fan fold this, but to me, the fan folding gets me confused. So I just do what I'm going to show you. So you technically could say this is your right side up, and then this is your right side down. But that's not true, because when you fan fold it, it is a mirror image and not the correct direction. So you still would waste fabric and mix yourself up by fan folding when you're cutting this particular shape. So this is how I do it. And March says, let's see. March says, when to place face up and face down is always a challenging. Yes. So pay attention because I figured it out the hard way. So once you see it, you'll go, oh, okay. This is with the right side up. So all I do is place it over the die, and then I just go ahead and just cut this piece off like that. And so then I take the wrong side and I do that, and I just lop it off. Again, I guess the fan folding part could achieve this, but it was way too confusing to me and way too much stress. So I just do it this way. So actually, my plan was to do different colors so that I would not get confused live. So this is the burgundy color is the right side up. And then we're going to use this black as the right side down, like that. And then I could just cut this off like that. Okay. So we have it all placed. We're going to put it through the cutter. Love Pug says, good tip. No fan folding when cutting right and left opposing blocks. Yes, never thought about it. Just ended up cutting too many. I know, girl. That's why I was like, I don't want to wait. I don't want to unnecessarily waste fabric. So I would rather do it this way. It takes a little longer, but I'm not wasting fabric because I cut too many pieces. So this is here. Sheila says, pretty piece of grunge. Sheila, let me tell you, I kind of still am in love with grunge. I'm just a little bored with it, but thank you. Okay. So what I do is I take Post-its, and when I am removing the pieces off the die, I label it up and down. But for this purpose, we know that the black pieces were right side down, and I'm just going to place that there. And then we know the burgundy pieces were the right side up. So this is how you assemble it. So we have this butterfly, correct? Like that. And from my notes here, my note says that when I am piecing the left side of the left triangle on, that I need to place a piece of fabric that was cut with the right side up. So that would be this burgundy piece. So the burgundy piece, hang on, this is better. So remember, the black side was right side down, and the burgundy side was right side up. So when I first started using this shape along with the kite shape, I said to myself, oh, wait a minute, it goes like this, right? It goes like, I would just piece it like that. And as you can see, that would be very wonky. That is not a square. So then I would try to shimmy things around, and it just became a mess until I figured this out. So this piece goes here. I'm going to put that over there. So what you would do is you would fold that there, right? And then you would, if this were the machine, you would line it up. And I really do try to line up my dog ears well, they're not dog ears because they've been cut off, but I really do try to line them up because it improves the accuracy of your block in the end. So if my machine were here, I would take this piece, these corners are all lined up, and then I would make sure that this is lined up. Sometimes I pin, sometimes I don't. But for this one, let's pin it. Right? And, well, I don't want to pin it because it's wonky, but you get the gist of it. So you would, again, line it up here and then sew it. Put it into your machine, do your 1/4 inch seams, right? And then you would press it this way. So it would end up looking like this. Now, here's where you really have to pay attention and or mark your fabric correctly using some sort of post-it system or just leaving the sides the way that they were cut. In other words, instead of removing the fabric off of the die and then flipping it over, what I do is all of my fabric that I cut right side up, when I remove it off the die, I just leave it right side up. And then the fabric that was cut right side down, I just leave it right side down so that I don't get confused. So according to my note here, for this right side, the triangle has to be a piece of fabric that was cut down. So remember, the black was the fabric that I cut down. So all you do is you take this triangle, you flip it, and look at that. It fits right there. So remember, let's make believe this was already pieced together, sewn together, you pressed it, and now this is attached. And I was going to make step outs, but I didn't. So you would have this piece here, and then you would merely just take this side of the triangle, again, do that process of lining it up, your ends here to here, put it through your machine, do your 1/4 inch seam, press it open, and then you will have a perfectly pieced triangle and a square. So just to recap, what you want to do is either make yourself a template so that when you are quilting and your brain isn't as fresh, you don't waste fabric. So this is mine. So again, a template, and I stapled this on and it just says down. That reminds me that this side is fabric that has been cut facing down on the die. And then this one is up. And this is just a reminder that this corner needs to be the fabric that was faced up. And similar process but reverse for that triangle. This is the upside and this is the downside. And so when you piece it all together, you have something that looks like something I can't find right now. Hang on. This is what happens. One moment, please. Well, I don't see it, but you get the gist of it. So Marge says that she loves the Post-it tip. Yes, it really comes in handy. And when I'm making a project and I have so many of them that are cut, I use a larger piece of Post-it and just sort of put them like this in a row so that I don't mix it up. So that's what this looks like. Let me refer to my notes to see what is next on the agenda. So now what I want to show you is a smaller motif that is also directional. So let's use the kite shape. Which is this one. So that's the kite shape. And the kite shape is like directional. Then let me show you what I mean. So this, when you have a pattern or a project that has this die in it, sometimes the pattern calls for your kite to be going this way and then I guess the opposite way. So it's very important that you pay attention where you place the fabric when you cut it. So, because it's directional. So I'm going to use this fabric. These are just a series of smaller clamshells. And so say, for instance, I want, well, let's just do it. So I'm going to cut this piece here. Where's my map? This goes here. And of course, I'm going to remove this because that goes nowhere near the cutter. And again, like I was saying earlier, like I don't really focus so much on, you know, label to my belly, put the fabric through. I just put it through in the orientation that I could reduce the fabric drag. That goes that way. That. And then it comes out. I just pull that off. And what we have is this direction of the kite shape. Now, let's say that we wanted to make the kites kiss, if you will, and we wanted to keep our clams going north. So we want them to kiss and we want them to go north. In order to achieve that, you have to place your fabric face down onto the die as such. And then you put your mat on, and then again, breaking all the rules here. How are you guys enjoying the live thus far? Hope you're learning something. Ta-da, ta-da. So, now what we have is if we were putting the ups and the downs, see what I mean? This is exactly what I mean by if you mix up your fabric. I just did it right there. I pre-cut the cream and the burgundy because I wanted to be all organized. And look, I didn't mark them. So I forgot which way was up and down. And if I piece it together like this, this is what it's going to look like, which is not correct. Huh? What is happening? You cannot go through there. So if we wanted to make our kite shapes kiss and keep our motif going north, you would cut some of them with the right side up, and you would have these clams are going north or up. And then if you wanted to make it kiss, again, you would put the fabric down on the die, you would cut it, and then your clams are still going up. So they're still going north. So again, the tip is you have to really think about which direction you want your fabric to go. And then you need to place it accordingly on the die. I do not recommend fan folding when you're using these specialty shapes, just because, you know, you could be rushing along and then fan fold it the wrong way and just waste fabric. So it's just easier to take it a little slower and cut each layer and place it and cut it. Now you still can cut up to 6 layers of fabric or 8 layers, but just make sure that you subcut the pieces first instead of just fan folding it, so that you don't get confused or you minimize the confusion. Let's see here. Love Puck says that the lives are definitely informative. Good. I hope that you learned something from all of my shenanigans sitting here in my living room at my Villa Kula talking to you guys. How many of you are Pippi Longstocking fans? I am a Pippi Longstocking fan, and I name everything. I'm the only child, and I name everything. So the name of her house is called the Villa Kula, and since she was my childhood hero, I named my house Villa Kula. Let's see. Taisha says, great live. You're learning a lot, which is helpful. Thank you. I'm happy that it is helpful for you. And then let's see. Taisha also says, does the pattern tell you which way the die should be cut? Yes. The patterns and the instructions for the die in writing tells you which way. I am a visual learner. And so when I read things, I can comprehend it. But if I don't have a visual in advance, I get all tangled up. But yes, it does have written instructions. Thank you, Mary. So let me refer to my notes again, because I think we're getting towards the end. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat while I review the notes. And I think we're coming to the end. Let's see. Hang on. All right. Let's see. So we talked about what fussy cutting is, and fussy cutting is basically selecting a part of a patterned piece of fabric that you want to highlight in your quilt block, and therefore you want to get that specific piece and not just the whole print or the whole repeat of the fabric. We talked about the traditional way that you could fussy cut, which is to use scissors and acrylic rulers. We talked about the scale of the motif, and if you have a smaller scale or a smaller print versus a larger print, that will influence which die you can use. Because if you have a larger print that you want to cut, but you have a smaller shape die, it will cut off the part that you want to keep. We talked about different materials that you can use for a template. We went over cutaway stabilizer. We went over sticky stabilizer. We went over parchment paper, which is different from facial paper. And then we talked about the plastic binding cover. Which one do you guys prefer? Which one do you think is easiest to use or more applicable for you in your situation? Last but not least, we went ahead and cut out some fabric using the process with right sides up and right sides down, so that when we piece the triangles in the square, the triangles together, that our block comes out looking the way it should look. Let's see. Love Puck says that she is also a visual learner, and that's why she appreciates or loves the demos. Yes, again, I can read and I can comprehend. I mean, I have a doctorate degree. I'm not a ding dong, but when it comes to something that I need to actually do, I need to read it and then actually do it live or physically. And sometimes I don't even read the directions. I just tinker around with it and cut it up and then figure it out that way, because I don't have the patience to read and comprehend. Let's see. Taisha says you have to embroider 2 bibs and a birth cloth sets, but after that you'll pull out your dies and make some type of block. Thanks for the information. So Taisha, every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I release a quilt block that I have selected from Maggie Malone's 5500 quilt block designs book, and I show you which AccuQuilt dies you need to translate that traditional quilt block pattern into AccuQuilt language. So you can just check on my channel, and when you have time, you can look at some of those videos. I just select, again, a different block, and I show you step by step which die to use, because I find that's one of the biggest challenge with the AccuQuilt cutting system, in that they have patterns on their websites, but we all have our favorite pattern designers, right? And most of the pattern designers write their patterns based on rotary cutting instructions. And so we're left wondering, like, hey, I really like this pattern. How do I convert this to AccuQuilt? So my main mission, or one of my missions of this channel, is to do just that, to teach you, or we will learn, because I don't have it all figured out. We'll learn how to do that together here in this community on this channel. Oh, thank you, March. I appreciate you guys as well. I am so excited that you joined me live. I am going to end this live stream. I have to film Thursday's video. I do not know what next Sunday's live will be on, because typically I don't figure it out till like Tuesday or Wednesday. But I definitely by Saturday will post a message or advertisement stating what the topic will be. Until then, keep quilting, keep cutting, keep crocheting and knitting and embroidering and all the crafty things that you do that bring you joy. I'll see you next week. Bye.